Thrown from an outside crescent kick position, the hip rotates first in on the y-axis, then up on the x-axis, out on the y-axis, and down on the x-axis. It's important to make full use of the power in the small of the back to drive the heel toward the ground. Notice that the last downward motion carries not only a shortened radius of curvature, but also the full force of gravity to give it acceleration. Against an opponent, the hammer kick is most effective for strikes to the top of the head, side of the neck, and collarbone. Executing any kick 360 degrees about the hip's y-axis of rotation is called a spinning kick. The weapon used for the spinning front kick is once again the ball of the foot held in a straight foot position. Pivot 180 degrees on your front foot, twist your torso, then spring the knee up to front kick. The transition from a large angular force about the hip's y-axis to a perpendicular force about its x-axis makes this a difficult kick. Pulling back on the kick's opposite shoulder just prior to the strike helps in the transition. Observe how the fixed leg acts as a brake, retarding the spin just enough to allow for the forward kick motion. To remain accurate as well as create impact, a tremendous sense of timing and balance is required. It's important to sight the target 90 degrees into the spin, so your head must twist around slightly faster than your shoulder. Perhaps the most challenging of all spinning kicks is the spinning round kick. Either the ball of the foot in a side foot position or the instep are used as weapons. Spin your torso, pivoting on your rear foot, knee up, hip thrust, and kick. To retain balance and speed, the knee should reach its peak height 240 degrees through the spin. During the last split-second acceleration of the hip, pull your kick side shoulder back. Notice how the rear foot pivots first on the heel, then on its ball to face forward. This type of two-point pivot increases speed and controls momentum. Circular force becomes formidable due to the body spinning a full 360 degrees before contact. Throwing a spinning round kick from a position to either side of an opponent makes it perceptually faster to that opponent. The spinning side kick may be considered a prime example of the precise control of body momentum. The knife edge of the foot is the weapon used. Pivot 180 degrees on your front foot, spin springing the foot up, hip thrust, and kick. Bound allows the hip in rotating from its Y to Z axis to accelerate faster than the spinning torso. Notice how the kick side shoulder pulls against the spin during thrust. Your kicking foot should pass in a straight line close to your fixed leg, with the heel aimed towards the target. Always retain a vertical position during the spin, otherwise both your angular momentum and gravity will drive your torso downward. The foot must travel in a straight line to the target. By combining the large torque of its spin with thrust in the hip, the spinning hook kick carries the greatest power. The back of the heel is used in striking. Pivot on your forward foot. Spin, springing the rear foot into a high cock position, extend the leg, swing across and down. Thrust your hip out as in a side kick, just as your heel comes 12 inches away from its target. Keep your torso up and the kick leg parallel to the ground throughout the entire motion. Your foot should spring up slightly more distant from the fixed leg than in a spinning side kick. The key to power lies in the quick snapping action of the leg as the hip rotates from its Y to Z axis and back. When kicking an opponent, crack the heel into the target, immediately relaxing the leg after impact. Slightly easier to perform than the spinning round kick, the spinning inside crescent kick follows much the same principles. The weapon used is the inside ankle of the foot or the arch in blocking. Spin 240 degrees and execute an inside crescent kick. Your kick knee should reach its peak at the 240 degree mark, and this kick must be performed quickly, otherwise the force of gravity will reduce the upward force of the bound. As in the spinning round kick, there must be a 2-point pivot on the rear foot for speed and spin control. Try to keep both your knee and foot cocked in tightly during the spin for better balance. When your leg whips around the knee, it should lock straight, with the foot turned slightly in. The movements of the spinning outside crescent kick are the most natural of all spinning kicks. The outside ankle is utilized in striking. Pivot on your front foot, spring the knee up, spin and kick. As your torso twists rapidly, the hip catches up. Don't swing the knee across until the shoulder and hip have reached maximum acceleration. The greatest acceleration should be in the foot. Notice the uniformity of two simultaneous motions. The hip rotating on its Y-axis and bound lifting the knee upward. Mechanical advantage is obtained by keeping the body vertical. Torque will be reduced by any imbalance. In terms of actual impact, angular momentum is never changed regardless of the distance of the foot from the body. The spinning twist kick is perhaps the most deceptive of all kicks in that the foot travels along the body in a spin. The weapon is the ball of the foot held in a side foot position. Pivot on the front foot, bound the knee up, rotate the hip out and kick. The hip must turn down slightly on its Z-axis on the kicking side in order to bring the lower leg into position. Spinning faster will facilitate bringing the foot in and upward. Watch carefully the elastic restoring force in the muscles of the outer back of the thigh during leg extension. This gives the kick its speed. Visually, the spinning twist kick looks much like a rubber band unwinding. This particular kick is almost impossible to block due to its angle of entry plus the deflective force of the foot turning over. The added momentum of the spin makes this kick considerably more powerful than the basic hammer kick. The heel of the foot is used in striking. Pivot on the front foot. Spring the knee up, spin and do a hammer kick. Good bound is essential to getting the foot up to its full height. A quick directional change in hip rotation, aided by the forces of gravity and muscle elasticity, accelerates the heel downward. Notice that the ground foot is 240 degrees through the pivot and perpendicular to the kicking foot just prior to the strike, a sign of good balance. Always hold the kicking leg straight throughout the downward motion. Never bend your knee. Kicking an opponent this way drives the force of impact right down to his feet. To the head, it can be a killing blow. Proper footwork is the key factor in maintaining precise kicking distance. Notice how the feet are measured apart to establish maximum stability. This basic parallel stepping pattern is designed to help beginners develop a sense of balance when kicking over a distance. While stepping in a straight line, transfer 2/3 of your weight over the forward foot. Keep your forward knee bent and your rear leg held straight. In reverse, the process is the same. A more advanced stepping pattern is the fighting or L step. Both feet are placed perpendicular to one another, heels 1.5 foot lengths apart. The forward foot pivots 90 degrees on the heel as the rear foot advances. This pattern's greatest advantage lies in its ability to facilitate quick changes of direction without having to cross the legs. With 2/3 of your weight over the rear foot and 1/3 over the forward foot, greater speed is lent to the forward leg and powerful spring to the rear. When advancing, weight shifted to the forward leg adds speed to the rear foot. In reverse, body momentum induces greater spring off the rear leg. Hip thrust should be timed precisely as the rear leg passes the forward leg, not sooner or later. Forward leg spring is enhanced greatly by bouncing the foot off the ground. In reverse, your weight shifts slightly forward for balance. Springing up in a circular motion adds power to the hip thrust. While bounding, concentrate on pivoting the kicking foot's heel out and upward simultaneously. In reverse kicking, weight is subtly shifted, first to the back leg, then to the front leg. Speed of the forward foot is increased by pivoting it around the knee. Power is generated by springing the knee first slightly to your side, then across. Notice how the torso is kept erect throughout every motion. Don't overstep backward with the kicking foot or you'll lose both speed and balance. With the forward leg, spring the foot up towards your crotch, then thrust out. In reverse, avoid lifting the leg, focus on balance and circularity in the bound. For maximum momentum, spring your rear leg across the fixed leg so that the kicking foot's heel and fixed foot's toe line up vertically just prior to hip thrust. Always bound off the forward leg so that as the knee crosses the torso, the lower leg rises parallel to its thigh. In order to kick more quickly, notice how the arm on the kicking side extends, acting as a lead-in just prior to the bound, then retracts as the hip begins its thrust. When kicking off the forward leg, arc the kicking knee slightly to the outside of your body, about midway through the bound, for greater power. Swinging too wide with a straight leg upsets balance and limits mobility. Therefore, pivot the kicking foot quickly around the knee after the strike. Don't lean back when kicking off the forward leg or the kick will go wild. Shift your weight slightly forward at the point of impact. To build up a whip-like action in the foot's momentum, you must bound the knee across the pivoting leg during the hip's inward rotation. In a forward leg kick, the key to getting the foot into a position parallel to the ground lies in the hip's rotational agility. The most common mistake in moving with this kick is to try and reach out with the kicking heel, which thereby reduces its effectiveness. Off the forward leg, make sure that your hammer blow falls absolutely vertical. At any other angle, stability suffers. To promote better balance when spinning, be sure to pass the kicking foot from a shallow bound close to the fixed leg. Bounding too high, too quickly, will offset your torso backwards. When stepping fast with any spinning kick, try to step into the pivot. During retreat, this becomes much more difficult. Notice carefully the difference in tempo between advancing and retreating. The extra change in the direction of your body's momentum will retard your retreat. When advancing, this kick may be thrown off the rear leg, although very rarely over a full 360 degrees. However, retreating definitely requires the kick to be executed by the forward leg. Kicking off the rear leg is in most cases intrinsically slower than kicking off the forward leg. To advance more quickly, cross your rear leg behind the forward leg, then kick off the forward leg using the rear leg as a pivot. To retreat faster, hop back with the rear leg just as the forward leg lands, then kick with your forward leg.